All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully, your favorite Chelsea podcast out there, and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan, one of your hosts here alongside Nick. And look, it is an international break, and you might have some international blues because you don't have your Chelsea going on right now. Obviously, the women in the midweek in the Champions League. Not a lovely draw, so we won't let me talk a ton about that in this one.
No.
But, I know that we'll be getting some more podcasts about the women's team coming up this next week with the men still on international break. But we want to run through a couple of quick news items that have been happening. Player availability, some phenomenal braces from our players on that international duty as well that we just have to get into and cover. Taking a look ahead at some of the injury situations that Chelsea have and how that's going to affect the next run of fixtures. And I think we're also going to talk about our next trip to London as well, but we'll do that after. Just talking at the very tippity top here, Nick. I think the most recent news about a Chelsea player during the international break comes with Enzo. He's withdrawing from playing for the Argentinian national team. Obviously, he has been kind of nursing, I think, a longer term knee injury. Like, you've seen it taped up pretty heavily in the photos that like this guy is using a ton of that KT tape to make sure that it is stabilized. So we're very happy that he's going to get a little bit of rest because, in any type of starting 11 for Enzo Maresca, he is most likely in that grouping. So rest for players that are, that play for Chelsea during the international break. It's a pretty nice blessing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now, this the midfield was not what I worried about at the start of the season because I thought we had the depth to, overcome this year. And it's just the walking wounded in that midfield. I mean, Enzo and Caicedo obviously have not been kind of peak fitness at the start of the season. Asugo goes down with a quad injury, will be out for a pretty significant amount of time. Andre got hurt before the international break, and I think is maybe set to return after. And you're just getting a little bit of Lavia back. But as I talked to Matt Law earlier in the week, they're just going to stair step him and West Fofana back to health because that's kind of, I think, the plan that they find to be most viable. I think that's what they did with Reece James as well. And so that midfield, if we are not able to spell some of these guys and give them rest, and Caicedo and Enzo in particular, it's going to be a long old season, Dan, without having your first choice partnership in there. So, I'm at the point, I think, with World Cup qualifying kind of coming to a conclusion. A lot of these teams are already kind of confirmed for the World Cup. That my hope is that we're about done with the required international call-ups, and perhaps we're into some of the more optional ones moving forward.
The heavy optionality, let some of the next generation of talent come up, get an opportunity to get that first cap, and make sure that you're ready heading into the next run of World Cup kind of qualification.
But why get a red card for Chelsea, Dan, when you could get a red card for your international team and not have to go into work? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. Well, look, very kind of important thing to consider. Obviously, the U.S. men's team played Ecuador, and Moises Caicedo wasn't available for that. He was enjoying some rest over this international break. Huge, considering that we thought he might have been somewhere between 60 to 80% on the day, given just how much he's been playing. Look, I think the other thing we want to talk about, just in terms of some of these like really important international items, is just Big Steve for Brazil against South Korea. Phenomenal brace. I mean, so him and Rodrigo actually both get braces in that one, with Vinicius Jr. also kind of capping it off at the end there. Do you have a favorite of the two goals?
I don't. I think Big Steve is going to be Biggest Steve soon for me, but because I mean, both of these, he's just a joy, man. He's just a joy to watch, and I don't know if it's the wisdom of inexperience, and just being able to go out there and play freely without having to overthink it or whatever, or if he's just one of these guys that's just gifted to kind of float above everyone else like Eden Hazard did back in the day. But it is just an absolute joy to see him play football, and long may it continue, because I mean, in a world that's dominated by slow tactics and crowded midfields and not wanting to concede anything. I think there's something beautiful about a player who kind of just bucks the whole system and goes on, side quests and makes his own luck. And I think we need more of that in modern game of football because it is just thrilling to watch. I don't know if you have a perspective on the goals yourself.
Um, I mean, so I did like the first one. I mean, I generally don't love like Gamaris too much, but that was a
No.
really good pass. That was a really good pass for him, and
Mhm.
the run was extremely, extremely well timed. So, I think that he is putting himself in a position where like he could be a big, big player for this Brazil team in the World Cup. In a sense of like as a U.S. men's team supporter on the side as well, I really don't want to have to face Estêvão. I don't want our defenders to have to face him in any which way, shape, or form, because he's just a really, really talented individual, and I would not love that. But yeah, I think that in general, it seems to have been so far a good international break for Chelsea in terms of giving some young players like Estêvão an opportunity. I mean, obviously Jamie Gittin scored as well. Was able to scuff it past a keeper in his opportunity.
Yep.
That took a really, really wonderful bounce for him. But you know what? Every goal counts. Every goal
Ball
counts. Ball
ball in
in
the
it.
back of the net. That's all that we care about. Just get it in the back. I don't care if it's pretty. Goals.
Most important thing to win a football game, scoring some goals. So look, there are a couple things also we want to get into. We do want to talk about some of the injury elements that Chelsea have heading into November, in the last bit or this back half of October to consider. I want to look through kind of what this means for those October fixtures too. But before that, we do want to say we are going back to London, which is like one of the most enjoyable things about doing this podcast that we get to do.
Yep.
And so you'll forgive us for a few moments, just to let people know if they are interested in heading to London this December, and then actually also going up to Manchester in the beginning part of
Mhm.
the new year. The trip is going to run from December 27th to January 4th for count them, Nick, three Premier League games, two at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea versus Aston Villa. In the wonderful Matlaw Derby, we have Chelsea
Mhm.
versus Bournemouth to hopefully smash the cherries. And then we have a trip up to Manchester to go see Chelsea hopefully beat the Citizens. 6 nights in London, 2 nights in Manchester. We have breakfast included. We also get the transport to Manchester. We'll do a live podcast recording. We've got plenty of meetup actions going on. We'll also try to get something going on for New Year's Eve as well.
Hell yeah.
A fun time to hang out with a couple of friends. I know we already have we stealth dropped this the other day on Thursday, Friday. I think there's already about like 4 or 5 people signed up. Very
Oh yeah.
exciting. Very exciting that we've got a couple repeats already, a couple first timers who are going to be joining us on this trip. Again, through our wonderful partners at XL Tours who are helping us out with this one, kind of coordinating it, making a phenomenal experience. But as you and I know, it is a great opportunity to make it a one-click type of experience after you get your flights separately, to get involved, to get in, to not have to worry about the tickets. And you know what? It's a great way to celebrate the holidays. We've done one of these trips before over New Year's, and it's awesome.
Yeah, we did this similar trip in 2018-19, and it was a blast. And so I'll just say this: like, it is October. I know that plans around the holidays are complicated, but if you have been itching to go over to London, I would argue that there is no better time to be in London than around the holidays. It is
For sure.
absolutely magical, tremendous experience. It's not too crazy cold, and so highly recommend. We know it's a little bit late in the day for announcing the trip, but we were just trying to get everything in order to have a great experience. We are definitely going to be throwing our little New Year's Eve bash. So New Year's in London, that'll be fun. And then excited to take this one on the road to go up to Manchester and go to the Etihad and see Chelsea play at Manchester City. This is the first time that we've really done that. I mean, I think our away trips have all kind of been in London for the most part, and so
Crystal Palace, yeah. I mean, it
yeah,
does sometimes feel like a different world for sure when you compare
yeah.
Selhurst Park to Stamford Bridge.
Going back into the Stone Ages, yes. But this is going to be a really, really cool experience. So, again, we don't take this lightly. Like, we have been very blessed that we've had 20, 30 people join on most of these trips over. It is such a fun experience to do with you guys. We are here. XL Tours is here. If you have any questions, a lot of people will kind of customize their trip. So they might go over a little bit earlier, spend Christmas in London, or they might stay a little bit later because there's some matches after Manchester City that are in pretty close proximity. So your trips can be customized to whatever you need. But that's what XL Tours does. They arrange all this stuff. And with all the kind of weirdness around ticketing, we have guaranteed tickets through this program. And so it does give me a little bit of comfort that way as well. So just wanted to quickly say all that because I think it is going to be a rip roaring good time. And, we wanted to do this before the craziness around the World Cup got on kind of later in the spring. We usually do a spring trip, and it just felt like it was going to be too close for people and all the travel that's going to happen next summer. So thought we'd do it over the holidays, have some fun, have some holiday cheer, Dan, and really, really make a fun memory out of this and have a couple games at the Bridge, which is the best.
Tell me the thing you're most looking forward to going back.
I mean,
non Chelsea related, just non Chelsea. Yeah.
The Christmas markets, 100%. I love a Christmas market and getting some mulled wine, walking around. It's all holiday cheery outside. It's great. It's fantastic.
I thought you were going to go with the F1 arcade because you had such a good time last time.
Man,
really destroying some people.
I love that place. It is incredible, and we'll definitely be going back to that as well. What about you, Dan? Culinary expert?
Ooh. I mean, look, London is a great food city, so I'm very happy to always go back to London and try out a bunch of different cuisine as well. And look, people go on the trips. I'm very happy to make recommendations on good places to eat and drink, but also we've got a good network of friends who we lean upon as well. And I think the friends are the best part of all of it too. Good friend. Hopefully get to celebrate our good friend Ollie Glanville and his significant other on some wonderful life news there. We'll get a chance to hang out with a bunch of other people that we've met over the years, maybe a member of our Porto 5 group, and, things of that nature. But look, we're going to take our first ad break. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about this October fixture run coming up for Chelsea heading into November and then the December that will be there, which makes it one to remember. #Lexus. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We don't even get paid by Lexus, Dan. Come on.
No, we don't, but that's okay. I'm glad we got you laughing out of the break to talk about Chelsea's return fixtures after international duty. That's right. Enzo Maresca has obviously been busy making sure that this Chelsea team is going to be ready after the break because it does look like Postecoglou is going to stay in charge of Nottingham Forest at this point in time.
Come on.
For that October 18th game against them, a little bit of an away trip for Chelsea on the return. And then it's Ajax in the midweek, Sunderland the following weekend at home, and then Wolves in the League Cup in the midweek before Chelsea start their November fixtures. So we know that obviously there was the news that came out, Cole Palmer not going to be available until November, obviously working through his situation. I know you and Matt talked a lot about like just the stacking of injuries and how that's going to make stuff really challenging for Chelsea. And also how a little bit of the dialogue and conversation for where Chelsea are at this season shifted because of the win over Liverpool heading into this break. Like the doom and gloom conversations that would have been occurring for the 13, 14 day window where Chelsea would have been talking about Enzo Maresca's viability, the players, the ownership, the sporting directors, a lot of that noise just got put on mute because of the Liverpool win. And look, I'm still riding high off of it. It feels really, really great still. But we've got games coming up. We've got games that we got to go and win. What are your, expectations looking at that run of fixtures? Again, Nottingham Forest away, Ajax at home to Sunderland, Wolves away for the Cup. That's the next 4 fixtures and what we have left in October. What are you expecting? Like, what would be a good return off that? And what would be like the best possible return for you?
You got to win both Premier League matches. You got to beat Forest and you got to beat Sunderland. That's pretty non-negotiable in my mind. If you are serious about any sort of like critical top three thing. You got to beat those teams. You just have to. The math only works in so many ways. And if you put yourself behind the eight ball early in the season, then it means that you kind of have to go on a winning streak later on. And so it just, I'm a fan of a fast start and a nice close. So I think the two Premier League matches will be the priority in there. The Champions League match against Ajax is an interesting one because for me, like obviously Chelsea have just kind of cobbled together enough to get a result in the league phase table. Matt has been talking, I think if you've been listening to those episodes, Matt Law's been talking about just like how difficult it's going to be for Chelsea to get into that top eight and not have to play the knockout round in I think the end of January or February. And those two extra matches, meaning, that it's more pressure on an already fragile squad. And so my guess is like that Ajax match will be taken incredibly seriously. That you're gonna have like a very, probably your best, team up for that. So probably playing at Forest and the Ajax game back to back best teams because you need to get a result. And then that Wolves game is every young player who doesn't get minutes in the other games to me. I think you could probably rotate a little bit against Sunderland and get a result, but I think that Wolves game, it's away.
I mean,
It's
Sunderland has a better record than Nottingham
I know,
Forest. Sunderland
I
has a
know.
better record than Wolves. Like, I mean, I guess, it's just like we're living in a little bit of a parallel reality, I think, where Sunderland, coming into the season, people might have had some questions about the better of those three sides. That, I guess the question is how much rotation do you think you actually can get away with, considering that, Sunderland have put themselves in a position, where, look, they also sit on 11 points, just like Chelsea. They have 7 goals scored, 6 allowed. So they only have a +1 goal difference. And so they are working a little bit more on the margins to get these across to kind of secure the 3 wins that they did have. But I mean, it doesn't feel as if there's a whole lot of easy games looking at
No.
the competition this season, looking at the fact that, I mean, you have Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Bournemouth, City, Palace, and then us. And the current spread between those, top two, where we are, and actually like through Sunderland, which is, 16 points to 11 points. It's a 5-point difference between first place and ninth place right now.
Yeah, and I mean, Sunderland has been, I've watched a couple of their games and have been impressed. Honestly, I think that they are well organized, they're well drilled. They obviously don't have a ton of extra competition to worry about right now. And so I think they're able to play like max overdrive all the time, in terms of pressing and winning the ball back. They're difficult to break down. I found them to be a surprise package this year. And it's not me taking them for granted because they are a newly promoted side. They're like Sunderland's like 2 or 3 results going their way from like almost assuredly not going down this year. Like it's a huge achievement. I mean, if they get a 3 or 4 more wins this season, break that 25-30 point mark, I mean, you're basically out of the woods, which I think is really interesting. But I do think that the way that we play sets up well against them. And I think we will potentially, by the time we get to the end of the month, maybe even have a player or two back
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's helpful. So, like obviously, like Trev comes back for Forest from his red card suspension. Joao Pedro can't play against Ajax at home. So, it's like you're kind of not only dealing with the injuries, Dan, you're dealing with the suspension overlap as well from the stupidity. Enzo Maresca himself won't be making the trip up to Nottingham Forest either for his red card. So, I mean, I think I understand your point, right? Because after Wolves, we have Spurs and then Karabag, and then it's the next international break.
Yeah.
And so if you really just take those 6 fixtures in isolation, I think you feel pretty okay about how we come out, but you really have to win Forest. You really have to win Sunderland. Those are the non-negotiables. Obviously, you definitely want to win Ajax, and Karabag have been the surprise package in the Champions League this year.
This is true.
Your point is that it might not look like the most daunting set of fixtures that we have this year, because it certainly does get harder for Chelsea. But it's not going to be easy.
No, and I think to the point I'm trying to make is that like this is an opportunity, I think, for Chelsea to put together a set of results that place them in a position to really mount a charge heading into that late November timeframe, because it's an away trip to Burnley. It's Barcelona at the Bridge, which I'm sure is going to be a rocking good time.
Rocking,
Definitely
yeah.
jealous of that one. The match against Arsenal at home at the very end of the month, then the December fixtures, fast, furious, the whole damn month. And so, like, if you can head into, basically the start of October and potentially have picked up, with the Sunderland match, with the Nottingham Forest match, with the Tottenham match, with the Wolves match, if you could win three of those and then potentially at worst draw against Tottenham, that 10 points off of those would be a nice place to be. Obviously, you'd love to kind of end up with the 12, the full 12, but I think 10 is a good number to shoot for out of that run of fixtures, considering it also has two Champion League
Well,
games and a League Cup game.
yeah, yeah, EFL Cup at Wolves for that one. So that's obviously not a Premier League game, but like
Well, I'm sorry, the first that first November game in the Premier League, like
first
so that
November
second
game.
one,
Yep,
the first
correct.
November
Yep,
game is Tottenham, the second one is Wolves. So we play Wolves actually like twice in like 15 days.
yep. And then it's the final international break after that, which is great. Yeah, I mean, you really do need to stack them up there. That is one of the more favorable stretches, I think, of fixtures that we get. Because I mean, you're right. It's like after that Arsenal game, it's Leeds on December 3rd, Bournemouth on December 6th, Atalanta on December 9th, Everton on the 13th, Newcastle on the 20th, Villa, Bournemouth will be there for those. City right after that. I mean, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a month, basically. You're playing the entire time, and it's going to be the festive fixtures and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, stacking up those wins now really, I think, does make a huge bit of difference for Chelsea as they deal with the injury crisis and everything that's going to kind of come with this season.
And then I think the other thing to kind of take into consideration too, like we know that, again, Liam Delap is probably not back until after the back half of that international break in November. You hope Cole is better, earlier rather than later. But, if
Yeah.
you can't get him before the first part of November, like just ride it until the back half and have him be ready for that. Like having him ready for that Barcelona Arsenal back to back would be very important to me. Would really appreciate that. I think all of us would appreciate that. As you're looking at the complement of players that we have over this run of fixtures, though. So again, just remember it's Nottingham Forest, Ajax, Sunderland, Wolves, Tottenham. What are you thinking about in terms of who's a player you're looking at as like this is going to be the game changing player? This is going to be the player that puts it on their back, puts the team on their back rather for this next run to help Chelsea achieve what they need to do.
It's hard to look past Estêvão right now. Candidly, like I think he's going to play a lot. Assuming knock on wood he comes back from international break fit and firing. But I really do think like the Liverpool moment is such a momentum changer for him and for his trajectory, and I think the excitement around him is just going to be palpable now.
Yeah.
Plus, our production from the wings this season has not been tremendous. And so, I think between him, Garnacho, Neto, you have an opportunity to play them all three at the same time with Big Steve in that number 10 role. You could play Big Steve, out on the right and maybe move Enzo Fernandez up into that number 10 role. Obviously, Joao Pedro can play the number 10 role when fit, and maybe then you bring in Marquinhos as the combination so that he can kind of sit behind someone who like you is a pretty aggressive passer and presser. So yeah, I think there's quite a bit of different combos, but I can't look past Big Steve right now, Dan. I think that it could be a legendary couple of matches for him to like really put himself in firmly into the
Mhm.
reckoning for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked they didn't mention the joint Premier League goal scoring leaders for Chelsea in Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. As everyone predicted at the beginning of the season, sitting
Just as we all thought, yes.
3 goals apiece. Followed by tied at 2 apiece, Joao Pedro and Trev Chalobah, because of course everyone predicted that as well. Um, I think to your point, if I'm probably still looking at Caicedo as like the if he is giving the performances that he's been giving, the floor for this Chelsea team goes so much higher in what we can accomplish. And I think that in a moment
Oh
of
yeah.
not every attacker being where they need to be, not every attacker necessarily giving a 60, 70-minute performance where they're finding a goal or an assist, but maybe they're like Garnacho in the last game before national break. We're finding a way, even if he didn't score, to contribute, to be available, to drive and bring it into the box. Like there are things that are starting to look better, starting to look right for this team. And I think a lot of that comes from how well Caicedo plays, how well Marco Correa plays, if Reece
Mhm.
James can play and he is healthy. Like I'm thinking a little bit about just the back end of our defense and then also our midfield. If they can continue to do and patch together some strong performances, I think that is actually going to be. I know we love the idea of like, oh, we score a bunch of goals and like there's 2 goals a game, or 3 goals a game, or 4 goals a game. I will I'll take 1-0 victories in every one of our games. I know we're gonna hate it. I know we're gonna absolutely complain about it on the episodes. I'm okay with that. Personally, I'm okay with that for our listeners if we win out this run of games because of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of this next 2 months, I think, for Chelsea, just the rest of October into December, for me is like survive in advance territory. Like it may not be pretty. You may not have sparkling performances every single match. There may be some mistakes, whatever, but just do enough to get across the line and wait for the reinforcements to really come in and help spell. Like I think it puts it, as we've talked about so many times on the show over the years when Chelsea have had like injury crisis like we do right now, it puts so much pressure on everybody else to pick up the slack, right? And perform. You have players who, like Estêvão, probably didn't expect to play as much as he's going to play the first part of this season, right? You have a huge amount of weight on Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez's shoulders, which they are definitely used to, but would prefer to occasionally have a break. You Joao Pedro, comes into this team this summer, is seen as an option and is now the guy, right? And a ton of pressure on his shoulders. And if he gets hurt, then it's a ton of pressure on Mark Guiu's shoulders along the way. So it's like it does kind of waterfall. And if it's where I give Enzo Maresca a little bit of slack because it does suck. I mean, it's a bad thing to worry about, but it's also why they get paid the big bucks, And I think like if it were me, if I were in that dressing room and I was looking at the fixtures just as we did and saw the next 6 fixtures to get us through, the 7 fixtures to get us through the international break, survive in advance. Just do enough to get over the line and then do it again and do it again. And eventually that will stack up enough credits so that you can take some more liberties in resting people. Right. I think it's just a hard situation to deal with in the intermediate.
Yeah, I mean, just some positive like data point things that I think you'll enjoy as you've been talking about Big Steve so much this episode. He currently sits at 264 Premier League minutes so far, a goal and assists across that time period, 4 starts in that time as well. If we take a look back just to last season, where we had some very interesting combinations of attackers and wingers on the pitch for Chelsea. I mean, he now has had more starts in just this start of the season here for Chelsea than Joao Felix had for the time that he was here, where he had 3 starts, 12 sub appearances in the Premier League for 369 minutes with
What?
the
Is
same
that for
goal and
real?
assist. Yes. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's wow.
I told you we did a lot of weird things last year. He has featured in more Premier League minutes. Actually, has tied it effectively. So it's 264 apiece. Him and Kieran Dewsbury Hall with the same amount of Premier League minutes. Kieran Dewsbury Hall started 2 and appeared in 13 Premier League games with 1 total assist
Wow.
across that time frame. So just if you're looking at how bad
Wow.
Chelsea's purchases were last season, and you want to reflect upon the good business of getting into the Estêvão market early, this is a very good return on that, considering that both Joao Felix
Yeah.
and Kieran Dewsbury Hall are not here, and you're giving those same minutes, particularly the minutes that maybe Joao Felix would have gotten, not necessarily Dewsbury Hall, to one young Estêvão. And that is, I think, a really nice type of change, transition, and opportunity for this team to continue to get better, to evolve, because there are players last year who sit on this roster and I'm like, wow, wouldn't have been great for the 200-ish minutes that Renato Vega got to give them to somebody else and let them be developmental and let them be an opportunity to really push this team forward.
Yeah, and the other thing that I just like when I talked to Matt, I had to check myself a little bit on as far as like getting too excited about Estêvão or getting, I think a lot of people saw Garnacho in a different light after the Liverpool game, when he put on a decent performance, right? Like they haven't played the intensity of football that is required of someone who, is going to be playing often in the Premier League enough to just like guarantee all 90 minutes every single start. Like they're going to need to get subbed. I think Jamie Gittins will have a huge role to play in this upcoming set of fixtures. Obviously Pedro Neto will have a huge role to play. Benoit Badiashile will have a huge role to play in this, right? Like assuming that his injury is not going to keep him out too long. Josh will have a big role to play in this as well, especially if Reese is hurt, right? Because he would then be the backup to Malo Gusto and the backup to like a Tosin as well. So there are a bunch of guys who just haven't played frequently enough at the intensity of the Premier League or the Champions League that are going to require a little bit of time to get caught up to speed, essentially. And so I think there's always frustration when Estêvão comes off the bench, right? And people want him to start, or he gets subbed in the 60th minute. It's probably because he's not fully 90 minutes, full go yet. And I think that's just probably something as a blanket statement to say about the upcoming run of fixtures that we have is you're probably going to get a lot of subs because these guys are obviously leggy, tired, and some of them are just not up to full speed yet.
Hopefully plenty of subs and fewer 11s and 18s that have multiple goalkeepers on the bench, which is the universal crime from any manager that just can not be excused in any which way, shape, or form. But look, I do think that puts us in a position, having talked a little bit about what's been going on in the international break, talking about our return to London, which we're very excited for. We'll be doing a live show again as well. So we'll drop information for people who just happen to be in London or our wonderful local listeners over there as we get closer to day and date of arrival. And then, we got into a little bit about what's going on for Chelsea in this October return and how that kind of projects into the remainder of the season. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified on YouTube as well. Leave nice comments as well. Let us know in the comments what you think Chelsea are going to do over those next run of fixtures. Do you have a projection on how many points Chelsea are going to achieve? You also subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, the Lens Blue Dispatch. You can get involved in our Discord community in a paid or free capacity. And you can also leave 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, because that is always appreciated and brings a smile to our face. And you want to do that because you're watching on YouTube. Potentially. But anytime, that's going to do it for this one. So thank you so much for listening. Until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep blue flag flying high.